Clan Ravnos is yet again another clan in Vampire the Masquerade that I have to put on my list of absolute favorites. Their entire vibe, their lore, the whole aspect of freedom, embracing your immortality, and rushing headfirst without a plan and looking stylish while doing it. I adore it. These are the type of characters I play whenever I go to tabletop, in my ongoing, perpetual goal to forever imitate the funny pizza man from Devil May Cry. I am a giant fan of Clan Ravnos, and as such, I'm gonna be like them and not really tiptoe around this intro thing. I'm just gonna get right to the point like they would. Though, there's one thing I need to mention when it comes to Clan Ravnos, and it's, they have a bit of a history when it comes to their development. So, as we all know, White Wolf and Roll the Darkness is a bit of an older game. It's been run for a while. And as such, sometimes they do some gross things. I'll put it that way. And the fact that the Ravnos are very clearly inspired by the Roma. And as such, when you base an entire clan off of a very specific minority group, some gross stuff can get in there in a couple ways. Mainly in gross stereotypes that are then perpetrated, like where they had a complete compulsion to commit crimes. That's a little gross, I'm not gonna lie. And the other aspect, I don't think I'm totally cool with the idea of publishing a rule book that sources an entire minority group as an entity of supernatural creatures. That feels a little weird, not gonna lie. But ever since in Vampire, I will say that the Ravnos are treated a lot better. They're better representation for what they are. So right now it's cool. I gotta say, you can complain all day about Vampire 5th edition. God knows I will. I have some problems with 5th edition. But on the other hand, there are some changes that are actually nice. And when it comes to not stereotyping an entire group of people, I'm pretty cool with that. But Clan Ravnos themselves, like done with the preamble, again, I adore them, and Clan Ravnos is known for many different things. They're known as drifters, nomads, tricksters, daredevil, the clan with the hottest canonical characters. Don't at me. But Clan Ravnos also has a thing I adore, much like the Malkavians, is the fact that if they are to be believed, their entire shit throws a massive wrench into all of vampire lore, and I adore that. Another issue with this is the fact that Clan Ravnos are a group of storytellers and tricksters. So a lot of times their word can't be completely trusted, not just saying that the entire clan are liars. In the fact that them being storytellers, a lot of times the core meaning of the story isn't the truth in it or like the actual events. They're not going for historicity. They're going for specifically like the morals and the lessons you can gain from it. So that's what takes priority here. And there are three possible interpretations and stories that are passed down around their specific antediluvian. This guy, who is also known by many different names, mainly Ravnos or Zapsura, which is a pretty dope name, not gonna lie. But I'm gonna quickly go through these three stories, not like I did in my ministry video. I'm gonna have to cut this down. There's a lot of things to talk about when it comes to Ravnos. So of these three stories, the first one we got is the one that he goes by Ravnos, and specifically his story is that he was traveling with a bunch of Romani people that were traveling outside of Enoch and just, going around. And specifically, it was actually a group who were hanging out with werewolves, as in Werewolf the Apocalypse werewolves. And like not everyone in there, including Ravnos, he wasn't a werewolf. In fact, he was just like a person descendant from the werewolves that was just allied with them. It's a whole thing. So one day in their travels, they came across a man who went by the name of Cain, but they spelled it different because their language was different. And when they met Cain, it was pretty obvious, like pretty open, that this dude was a vampire, as in the werewolves made on no uncertain terms. You can hang out with us, it's chill, but if you drink somebody, we're ripping you apart. And Cain was like, all right, sure. So we traveled along with them, until one day a pack of roving vampires murdered Ravnos' pops, who's the leader of their little group. So Ravnos, really sad about this, asked Cain if you could do something. Can you fix my dad? Can you give him eternal life? Cain's like, nah, that doesn't how it work, bud. Can't do that for you. So then Ravnos instead took the gift himself and was embraced by Cain. to where the werewolves were really, really pissed about this. They were not happy. They got both ran off immediately. And to where here Ravnos also became like Cain's favorite childer. And this is nuts because this is also saying that Ravnos is a second generation. That's wild, you know? That throws a wrench into things. But his life would soon come to its final end later as he started hanging out with the primogenitor of the Gangrel, who for those of you who know VTM lore, she is not to be trusted. Not at all. They started a thing. They started fucking because they both were outcast from their society until she decided that she was going to make a power play. And she sacrificed Ravnos to the leaders of the second city, who were not really happy with Ravnos and the fact that he kept committing all these like little crimes and stealing people from the city to turn into vampires of his clan. And so Cain was mighty pissed, and so he gave her the curse that was become the Gangrel curse. And yeah, he dies there in that story, which is wild. And then next is the story of Zapsura, which is completely different. So this is all in the method of grand poetry, like Indian grand poetry. In this tale, the gods created these beings to protect humanity and all the mortals, to which they got corrupted by demons and started just eating people. They got a lot of fun out of it. The gods were mighty pissed, cursed them, and then decided, well, let's restart, and created a new being. It's kind of like the old ones they had, the old monsters, except they tamed them a bit by giving them specifically 3 curses. This should be sounding a little familiar. And this first entity was Zapsura, who was, the first vampire. Another story where the primogenitor of the clan was also the first. To where he then made a bunch of childer, and they went around killing all of those old protectors that turned evil. To where a giant war happened, and then it kind of ended with Zapsura going into torpor and the rest of his clan fucking off and just like abandoning him at the last moment to save some other guy. So that one's pretty weird. And then the third story is a story of the twins, specifically Inoya and Shurka. Shurka being, well, another name I guess for Ravnos. In this story, they're twins, vampires still, and like twins, they're bickering all the time. It's angry siblings. So one day it starts turning a little violent. So they decide, you know what, let's build an army. Both of us, we build our own individual army, and we kill each other, end this right now. Inoya going more brute force, getting the strongest soldiers, and Shurka getting the cleverest warriors. To where they fought, long story short, shenanigans were had, and Shurka won, sending Inoya out of India to go to the west, meet with the other Cainites, and that's how Gangrel joined the main clans, and Ravnos stayed pretty isolated in India. Which I gotta say, this isn't even me just speedrunning through like this story. There actually isn't much details about Ravnos or Shurka in this story. In fact, this kind of feels more like an origin point of why the Gangrel weren't in India. Like, I don't know, it feels more Gangrel focused, not gonna lie. And main question, which one of these stories is real? I don't know, does it matter? That's not really the point. Again, it's not Ravnos' whole thing. The point is the story and what they mean. There's probably kernels of truth in each of these, which is, I don't know. I think it's a cool method. It's the thing I unironically adore about Worlds of Darkness and Vampire, is the fact that these stories change so wildly based on, I guess, the cultural traditions of who's telling it. Everyone has their different methods and reasons and motives for telling the stories they are. The main point is that the Antediluvian is kind of gone. He's just not here anymore. Just kidding, I lied. He came back. So this is a thing known as the Week of Nightmares, where the Antediluvian to Clan Ravnos came back. And it was bad. It was really bad. I know the majority of my audience is 40K. And so the best way I can put this in an analogy that's easy to understand, and I think is mostly accurate, is picture, just in your mind, in current day India, Demon Primarch Angeron crashes down and then just goes to town. I genuinely think there's some similar power scaling when it comes to that. And the Week of Nightmares is an absolutely goofy event that I'm gonna skip over for this video because literally next week I am posting a video on the Week of Nightmares. It is goofy, there's a lot of things going on, and I need to yell about it. It's really fun. The main cut and short of it, Ravnos woke up in India, in his homeland, and he started calling for his clan, sending out psychic beacons, which also connected to anybody that was even loosely associated with the supernatural. Everybody with those ties to the other worlds started having prophetic dreams of Ravnos rampaging, or I guess Zapsura, as he was known throughout this entire event. To which, Clan Ravnos gathered around him and started rolling out. They went on a rampage, to where then the Quasian, who, there's a lot to talk about them here, there's a lot more lore. The most reductive point I can say is that they're Asian vampires. There isn't that much disconnecting them from normal vampires than that, again, being reductive here. Where they started fighting Ravnos to stop him. And this didn't go unnoticed as the mages got involved, who then decided the best way to fix this is to use giant space mirrors to shoot the sun at him, but they had a shield, so it took a bit, to where they set off spirit nukes. Whatever those are, I'll be real, they don't explain what that means. Anyone that was around there fighting, dead. And then eventually the sun rays worked and he died, sending out a giant reverberation throughout his bloodline, sending every single member of Clan Ravnos into a blood frenzy, where they just started gorging themselves on the blood of Zapsura that was laying on the ground, that was still sentient, by the way. It was wriggling around like worms, wild, or just anyone nearby. So then the majority of Clan Ravnos got killed, mainly just being put down in the aftermath by some of the other supernatural powers needing to get rid of this. So yeah, this is a long way of saying that Clan Ravnos is in a pretty sorry state right now, in the fact that there aren't very many of them, because a lot of them died. And it isn't just the low numbers that they have to thank for the weakened nightmares. In fact, their current clan Bane is directly a result of this. So, like I said, their original clan Bane, a little gross. This got revised later in Vampire 20th to be, basically, they have a compulsion act for basically anything. They just have a compulsion they have to act out, which mainly, it was very clear pointing out, can also be beneficial. So you can play a kleptomaniac, you could also play someone who is obsessed with helping the needy and the poor. So I guess that's a little something. But the new one they got, if a member of Clan Ravnos ever sleeps in the same spot twice in a row, they have a chance of the sun rays that killed their antediluvian to come out of their blood and make them explode. Certainly a way to force the nomadic lifestyle, I guess. And then their compulsion is also pretty cool. Their compulsion is that they act recklessly and they dive headfirst into something. Act first, think later, profoundly based. I love it. And I think that's the method of Clan Ravnos that I think is the coolest. It's the part of, throughout all of their culture and their personalities, Clan Ravnos believes in living freely and enjoying what you have. Honestly, the vibe I really get from them is the idea of, you're immortal. You gotta live all this time, why not enjoy it? Even one of the better interpretations of the older Bane, like Vampire 20th, not the old Bane, is the fact that they even openly embrace their vices that they partake in. Their obsessions and their compulsions isn't a negative thing, it's just a thing they enjoy doing. So this pure openness to be themselves, I think is really cool. And the idea too of, if I was like an immortal being in some way, I would want to keep that mentality of actually enjoying life. Oh, and okay, last thing, because there literally wasn't a good place to put this in my script. Disciplines, like really quick. They completely changed it in V5. Before that, we have animalism, so you can like hang out with animals. Fortitude, so you can be like vampirically impossible to kill, and then chemistry. So they're cool, unique discipline that would later be absolutely gutted in V5, but it's illusions. Then in V5, they get animalism again. Obfuscate for stealth, and presence, so they like mesmerize you in your presence. Why can't she play with any of the toys I buy her with that same amount of like vigor? But yeah, that's it. Bye. Have fun.